Hello, everyone, and welcome into our latest live video. It's Wednesday, the 26th of June, 2024. My name is CareyHolzman, and welcome in everybody in our chat room. Today, we're going to be looking at travel routers. We've not done travel routers before, and I thought I would expose you to what they are if you're like me and you either never heard of them or never quite understood why they exist. We'll talk about that today and the potential they can offer that might help solve a problem you're having or not, but at least expand your horizons a little bit on the technology that exists and who it's for, who might benefit from it, which might be you. Now, before we get started, a shout out to our friend Buster out there in Scotland, and hope he's doing well. I know he's going through some challenges there, and he's on our mind. Also, to all of our members and friends in blue, our moderators, thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. The folks at GL.iNet make several of the models I have in front of you. There is an alternative model here from a company called Cudy, which is very, very similar. And these all run in open source firmware. So you don't have to wait for the company to release a firmware. It's called OpenWrt. And there's no modification necessary for it to run on these. So when these all arrived, they were all outdated as far as the latest firmware was concerned. But just going to get the latest OpenWrt is very easy if you want to make sure you're not getting the wrong one as far as compatibility. Just visit the manufacturer's website and go to that specific model's support. And what they have available as the latest firmware is basically an unaltered OpenWrt open source firmware. There are different versions of OpenWrt for different routers with different features. So I would advise you to get the firmware directly from the manufacturer's website and to always have the latest firmware. I know in England recently, an ISP's routers were bricked with a fake firmware update that was pushed out just recently. And it affected a lot of customers. I don't know what the hackers hope to gain from that, but certainly inconvenienced a lot of people. Having the latest firmware updates is important because it allows you to have the best performance, reliability, and security that the router has to offer, as well as enhanced features which may be mesh or access point, bridging, et cetera, depending on the model. So you could have feature enhancements with a free firmware update, but more importantly, maybe better performance and certainly better security, and it costs you nothing but a few minutes of your time to do it. We'll check these when we fire some of these up, but they come in a lot of different sizes and a lot of different strengths. So think of it like medication. Medications come in different size pills depending on the dose. There's not one dose for everyone. Some people will need a higher dose, some people will need a lesser dose. These are kind of like that in the sense that they perform a level of function which may be enough, too much, or too little, depending on what your particular expectations and needs and wants and desires are. That's up to you. So it's really up to you to decide if any of these will be suiting any needs that you have, if they fall within your budget. And I can assure you, whatever that calculation is, only applies to you and nobody else on the planet. So I'm not going to recommend any of these for any of you. I want to introduce you to them, and then you can determine their value individually. Some of you will see no value, some of you will see some value, and some of you will wonder how you've ever gone this long without knowing this perfect thing exists to resolve all of your nightmares and headaches and is nowhere near as expensive as a traditional router. That's what our goal is today. It's an introduction. Now, I use this little Cudy router all the time. And the reason I use it is I have two network connections here in Studio B. One is a high-speed connection that I dedicate for live streams, and the other is just the bottom of the lowest tier of cable internet service available in Phoenix, which is useless to me except for maybe checking email or browsing the web or watching YouTube videos. It doesn't have enough upload bandwidth or download. It's like 30 megs down, 3 megs up, or 5 megs up. It's really, really bad. And not only that, it doesn't stay consistent at that speed. That's the speed it tops out at, right? 5 is like the best upload speed I'll see. It'll hover around 3.5. So it's not good for live streaming. However, the way that the secondary network is set up is very singular. And if I'm not using the streaming PC and I want to be able to upload a large video to YouTube, I either have to copy that video over to this PC and upload it from this PC while I'm not streaming, or I can use this, or any of these really, but I tend to go to this one, this orange Cudy travel router, to set up a little Wi-Fi network here. In addition to the Wi-Fi network I already have, they don't interfere with each other. They're on different channels. And I don't even have to set that up. It just happens automatically. I connect my laptop in the other room, which is usually where I do the video renders and final outputs. And then right from the laptop, I can use that high-speed internet connection that is the secondary connection, get my video uploaded in a fraction of the amount of time it would take me to do it on the standard one. And then I can easily disconnect it. And I've made no physical major change to my network situation regarding logins, configurations, or rewiring anything. It's just plugging the network cable in and plugging in a USB-C cable for power. That's it. There's not even a power adapter you need for any of these. They just use regular USB-C. So with that, that's what we're going to talk about, because these come in multiple sizes physically. Some of them are very tiny. And the tinier they are, obviously, the lower they perform. I think that should be obvious. They're not going to have the range or the performance or the CPU power. They're really intended to be very minimal, and they sell, like this one here, for as little as $14. Yeah, I can't even eat at Five Guys burger and fries by myself for under $20. And this will last, well, as long as electronic devices will last, years and years and years. Let me show you what this looks like before I take it out of the box at the Amazon page. Let me go over to one of these tabs. Now, I've got links to everything, obviously. It should be obvious by now in the video notes below this video. So everything I'm about to show you, you can see for yourself. And you can check out their user reviews on Amazon and see what people say about it, what they like or dislike, and overall, if most people are happy or not. So we're not making anything up here. We have no bias or preconceived ideas. I will share with you my individual thoughts, and then you can evaluate how those measure against your own. And again, that is entirely up for you to value, not for me. So this is the GL.iNet, the MT300N. It's called the Mango. And it is a VPN router. In other words, you can turn VPN on this using the OpenWrt firmware. It also uses OpenVPN and Wireguard VPN. And this is a renewed product. That's why it's so cheap. You'll see many of these are available as refurbished, recertified, renewed. I don't know why, but I haven't had any problems with any of these that are renewed. The only downside of buying renewed is that they're often sold out. You can save a lot of money. 14 bucks. I mean, if I were to ship this to one of the viewers, it would cost me more than $14 in shipping fees. That's including free shipping on that price. Now, you can see the reviews on here. Looks like 26 ratings, averaging 4.1 stars. We got a little bit of everything here, with a major amount preferring the 5-star, and then the remainder is just kind of split up almost equally. And this may be people just not having proper expectations of what they were buying. And I can't say I blame them, because when you look at the pictures, it doesn't really give you any scale or reference. Right? You don't really know how big this thing is. So let me go back to camera 1 and see if this doesn't absolutely floor you. Are you sitting down? because this is the box, and this box has packing. So it's smaller than this little box. Wait till you see it. Okay, there's our instructions. There's our USB charging cable and an Ethernet cable. And this little thing is about the size of an Oreo cookie, maybe 2 or 3 Oreo cookies stacked. I don't know how you could get that any smaller and still have any room to put the plugs in. Let me bring it up to the camera. We've got some status LEDs here, USB cable here, reset button. I forgot what that switch does. We'll have to look that up. There's a little switch right there. If it'll focus, there it goes. I think there's a little fan right there. Not mistaken. Nothing here. I don't know if there's a fan or if that's just an air channel. Information about, so these are all just going to be for airflow, right? Because this thing can get hot. But you don't have to set up your SSID. You can if you want to, but it's all pre-printed on the bottom for you, so you know what your predefined SSID is. And your default security key is GoodLife. And I think GoodLife is the default security in all these GL.iNets. Now, you'd never know this was a GL.iNet if you were looking on your Wi-Fi. I don't think you would. What's the SSID say? I take it back. It does start with GL. So if you knew what you were doing and somebody did not change the default, you'd be able to jump on their network. So the point of this is you could pack this in your luggage. You could easily, even if your luggage was only carry-on when you're traveling. Some hotels will charge you for each device you're connecting, or they only allow up to 2 devices, for example, in many Las Vegas hotels. Well, this could be one of your 2 devices when you're paying for your internet. And then all of your devices from your phone, tablet, laptop could all then connect to this. So as far as the hotel's concerned, it only sees 1 device connected. Also, one of the reasons that USB port is probably there is so you can plug in a USB cellular hotspot. In other words, you can pay for a cellular card from your internet service provider, although many of those will already be a router, although a lot of them don't have any Ethernet ports. So you could plug that in to bring your own internet service with you wherever you go. If you're traveling in the car and you want the kids or other occupants of the vehicle to have internet access while you're driving, they can have internet access and keep themselves entertained with your portable hotspot utilizing this. And because a car space is so small, you're not going to have any issue with range, and you're not going to have any security issues because you're in traffic. So if anybody was hacking you, they'd have to, remain within probably 150 feet of you at all times, so they'd lose the Wi-Fi range. So there's security in that as well. Even in a small RV, something like that, this is plenty of Wi-Fi range. This is not really designed for you to create your own little mini network to copy big video files from one PC to another PC. You could absolutely use it for that, but it's not going to be very fast. Now, this is a little micro USB, and that's how it's powered. That's why there's no power adapter. Just any micro USB cable, plug that in, that provides it all the power. And then plug a source for your internet into it onto the WAN side, just like you would any other router. And then if you wanted to hardwire a computer to it, you could, if you did not want to connect via Wi-Fi for some reason. So whether you're bringing your own internet connection or you are renting a public connection or somebody else's connection that isn't in your name, like a hotel, a coffee shop, this is going to provide you more security, more usability, and more consistent connection quality. So with that, this is about the cheapest one you can buy, probably the weakest least range, least expensive. Price is going to be very much in balance with capability. And if you don't need all of that extra capability, why spend the extra money? All of these other units are going to be bigger, but they're still really, really small. They're called travel routers because of their portable nature and how small they are. There's really no parts to break on this. There's no moving parts. Okay, now, the Cudy router that I've been using here in Studio B, and these are all, with the exception of this one, these are all a company called GL.iNet. This is like a competitor to GL.iNet. It's very similar in many ways. They've decided to go with a big, bright color orange. And you can see it's got some antennas that fold up here. And very similarly, we have, if I bring this up to the camera, we have USB-C power. So just a USB-C cable here, such as what I have here on the desk. Just a regular USB-C cable. Plug that in, that's your power. And then your LEDs on the front will indicate when it's initialized and then establishing a connection. Now, all the same features, VPN option availability. You've got the two, WAN and LAN. You've got a USB 2, again, if you have a cellular hotspot you want to plug into it to provide your own internet access rather than paying a hotel or a coffee shop. And of course, your internet access is going to be far more secure than any coffee shop or hotels that you're paying for. We've got a reset button here. I'm thinking the button on the side is to shut the LEDs off. I think that's what it's for. And once again, your connection information is on the bottom of the unit unless you change it. So just out of the box, when you plug this in, you will eventually see this. And this has a 2.4 and a 5 gig, so 2 channels on this one. And this one's showing us the 5 gigahertz channel name and the password for this unit, which appears to be randomized. Now this unit, a little bit more money, but still really, really affordable. Now I will use it here in Studio B. I will just set it right here on the counter and plug the network into it like this. And I'll grab my USB-C cable. Whoops. Remember, there's nothing really to break on these. And that's it. I'm all done. Within about 90 seconds to 2 minutes, that will initialize, and I will have a new Wi-Fi network available that I can connect to with any Wi-Fi device from my phone, my tablet, my laptop. The laptop's about 40 feet away, 50 feet. More than enough range easily. So if you live in a smaller apartment, or if you have a small area of the house you're having trouble getting Wi-Fi in, you could set something inexpensive and small up like this to be an access point and extend your Wi-Fi. Or you may not need one of these expensive routers. If you're not transferring files internally from one computer to another, you could simply set yourself up with a very inexpensive, easy to set up portable router and just not make it portable, make it permanent. It doesn't care. So let me take a look here in the chat. Oh, I was going to show you the Cudy Amazon page. Okay, this is a $30 router. So this one is not refurbished. This is brand new for 30 bucks, shipping included. Slightly lower rating at 4.3, a little bit of everything here. I think some people have unrealistic expectations of what they're getting for 30 bucks. This is obviously going to be a limited speed as far as, looks like 1200 is going to be the speed on this, AC 1200, which is like 802.11n, 802.11a. So a few generations back. AC, I suppose, would probably be the highest level, which goes back a couple of years. But most people aren't going to need that if your main concern is connecting to the internet. This is more for internal file transfer speeds. And you can read more about it here, of course. So yes, the Cudy is my go-to. Not that I have any problems with the GL.iNet. They're all using the same firmware, by the way. They're all OpenWrt. Okay, so let me jump over to the chat room and see if you guys have any questions before we proceed forward into the more expensive, more advanced units and why they cost more. And they're usually a little bit bigger, as well as introduce you to who GL.iNet is. So GL.iNet, once again, makes every router here except this orange one. This is from a company called Cudy. Dazo says you can connect a wireless printer via USB to the router. Well, if it's a wireless printer, you shouldn't need to connect it at all. It should be wireless. Any wireless networking device can connect to this wireless router no differently than it would connect to any other. Let's see. See if there's any questions I've missed here in the chat room. Ben Laird contributes £2 and says hello from Scotland. Well, thank you, Ben. Good to see you. Now, in the box with the, where's my OBS? Here it is. In the box, this one does come with a USB power brick, much like what your cell phone might have. And you can see how they've made this international. So because we've ordered a US version of this portable router, and this is an international company, they make, or they're purchasing from somebody who makes a USB-C power adapter, and then you just get the kind of plug you need for your country, and that will just line up onto the plug. I'm trying to figure out a way I could show this to you, but I think you'll get the idea here. Somehow this locks in. Yeah, it goes in like this, and then you twist it, you'll hear it click. And now we have a US plug with a USB-C. But if you already have USB-C set up for your phone or a laptop or something else running off USB-C, this is very, very low power. It doesn't take much. So likely most USB-C power you've got now will work with it. So this costs money. This does not include one, so they can sell this one for far less. This probably costs nearly as much as this does, as far as if you were a seller, if you were the manufacturer. So if you've got more money invested in the product, then the product has to sell for a higher price because you, as the buyer, are getting more. Paying more, you're getting more. Now, if you want more performance, if you want to be able to connect more devices simultaneously, I'm not sure what the limits on these are, but as the price goes up, the number of devices you can connect, the range and speed of those connected devices via Wi-Fi all go up. Also, some of these will have essentially a SIM card slot or a microSD card slot. So if you don't have a USB style of hotspot, but you can just use the SIM card itself and plug it directly in the unit to help keep it more portable and self-contained. That will also add to the cost of the unit. And then those SIM cards are provided through your cellular phone provider. So you just have to make sure you have one that's compatible, plug it in, tell it that's what you want to use as your default. You can have these set up as access points. You can have them set up as VPNs, all of the above. It's all up to you. And there are YouTube channels dedicated to showing you specifically how to set up and configure a VPN, OpenVPN, all of the services. Plenty of YouTube content creators have made walkthrough tutorials, so I don't need to repeat that back here. If you're interested in that, please know that other content creators have taken the time to do the walkthroughs for those different configurations. A while back, I was with a friend in an RV, and they had a router. It was actually a hotspot from their ISP, maybe Verizon, in the RV. And while we were taking the road trip, which was about 12 hours, we could be connected to the internet, watching YouTube videos, interacting in live chat, just like you're doing now, but traveling 70, 80 miles an hour down the freeway in the middle of nowhere. It's surreal. And that was back in 2009, we did that. So now imagine 15 years later, just how much further this technology's gotten. The price of it's come down significantly. We used to pay per minute on our cell phone usage. We used to pay per text message on our cell phones. Remember? Look how much cheaper things have become. Look how much more a cell phone will do. It's converged so many different devices into one thing now. From we don't need maps anymore. I don't need a garage door opener anymore. I don't need a security system anymore. Everything ties in and converges into the phone. Banking apps, all that stuff I couldn't do on a flip phone. And it's cheaper than it's ever been, for more power than we've ever seen. So if you buy today, just know in the future, these are only going to get better. And they're probably more than what most of you need already. Now, let me bring up my laptop here, and we're going to connect over to this router, and I'm going to show you what the OpenWrt firmware looks like. The fact that it's open means it's open source, that everybody can look at it. You can see that not only everything that's going on in the code, if you understand how to read code, but you can even offer alterations and enhancements to the community, which more or less get voted on and make the product better. So it's just at a higher level, people helping people. Of course, you don't have to distribute it or get anybody's permission. If you know how to code it, you can code it to whatever you want to do. Just keep it to yourself. With most routers, it's all locked in based on the manufacturer protecting their intellectual property. So let me take a quick look here with this laptop and see if we can connect. Okay, so I see the Cudy 903C 5G, and I also see it without the 5G. So it's broadcasting on the two channels, in addition to the two channels I'm broadcasting on the TP-Link router here. And it wants me to enter the password, which in my case is very, very tiny. I cannot read this. Even with my glasses, I can't read it. So I'm going to take a picture of it with my phone. Try. Okay, and then I can set that back over there. And let me just magnify. Oh, it's blurry. Great. Let me delete that and try it again. All right, one more time. Oh, I can read it now. Okay. Now I'm still connecting onto the slower network, but now I'm connected via Wi-Fi. And I guess I have to plug an HDMI cable in this to share the screen with you so you can see what I'm seeing. And let's jump over to our HDMI input. Perfect. Okay. So in order to determine the IP address of our router, we could simply go to command prompt and just look up IP config, and that should tell us. I think it's on the bottom of the router as well. So we've been assigned 192. We're going to be 192.168.1.1. That's how we're going to access the router. So we'll open our browser, and we're going to go to 192, and that works with any router, by the way, in case you wanted to. How you find that. A lot of people just use a phone app. I'm old school. This is not, okay, this is the TP link. So I guess we want, confused. Is it the 118? I should be, how did that happen? Did it put me in a bridge mode? Let's go to 18. 18 should be the laptop. Yeah. Let me look at this one more time. CMD, IP config. Hands are off by one button there. 192.168.1.1. Why is that taking me to... I'll tell you what, let me disconnect the internet from the router. Somehow, I think it might be in an access point mode instead of in router mode. And let's release and renew. And let's see what happens here. Ah, 192.168.10.1. That's better. Much better. Okay. It's a little confused. It got us there. Now, when it comes to the sign-in, that information should also be on the bottom of the router and in the documentation. So the default password is going to be admin, and it's highly recommended when you receive one of these, if you choose to buy any router, that you change that default for obvious reasons, right? Don't want to be hacked. And here's what your OpenWrt looks like. Oh, it looks like it was in a mesh mode. Well, it says work mode is now wireless router and the internet is not connected. And then we have a quick setup button. And if we scroll down here, we have our LAN status, our wireless status, our DHCP server, and our firmware version right here, which is 116.3, which we can check. That should be fairly new, but it may not be the latest. It's been a while since I've checked it. And if we go up to the top, you'll see numerous tabs here that this quick setup and this quick setup are the same thing. General settings. These are your more basic settings that every user should have the comfort of knowing how to adjust. Then there's advanced settings and the, well, come on now. Sure why that happened. Connection was interrupted. A network change was detected. Let me close the browser because I think I might have confused it. Let's do an IP config one more time and make sure nothing's changed. Now it's saying 192.168.1.1. It did change. I don't know why. It's probably my impatience. 192.168.1.1. How is that connecting me? I must have lost the... Yeah, it connected me back to my TP link. Let's disconnect. Let's go back to the Cudy. It's a little confusing when you have multiple connections. and I did not save the network key. So I'm going to re-enter the network key again, and I should tell it to remember it so I don't have to go through that again. There we go. Wait, that's actually not the 5G. Hold on. We are connected automatically with the... No, we're not. Uncheck that. This is the one I want. And it says we are secured and connected. All right, well, that wasn't confusing at all. This is what happens when you can have multiple Wi-Fis that you are connected to. If I had never connected to the other one, it was taking priority of the other one. So my bad on that. That's just a user problem, not a device problem. Let's take another look at ipconfig, and we're back to 192.168.10.1. Now, let's open that again, and we'll just pretend like none of that other stuff ever happened. Like Men in Black, look at my little flashing pen. Here we are. Admin is the default password. And I don't want to save that. So once again, you've got quick setup as a router, an access point, a wireless extender, a WISP, a wireless internet service provider, and a client. Okay, and there's information on all of these that you can look up online and on YouTube videos if you want details of any one of these settings, or we'll spend the next 5 hours, right, going through different levels and depths of the technological settings and variations and idiosyncrasies. There's thousands of possible combinations here. We've got QoS service, IGMP, IP version 6, DHCP server, a guest network as well. So that's if you only want people to have internet service and not be able to, if you have multiple computers on your network and you don't want them to see or transfer files, share files or printers, when you put it on a guest network, they're isolated to internet only, regardless of anything else on the network. Information on your local area network, your custom DNS settings, dynamic DNS, static routing, port forwarding and port triggering, and DMZ, the demilitarized zone. I can't imagine why you'd want to do that. All this stuff here, universal plug and play, USB sharing. If you wanted to, you could plug a USB flash drive in and use that as a file share for everybody on your network that's not a guest to share the files on the USB drive. Remember, this is a portable router, so presumably everybody's going to be within close proximity. However, if you're in a small apartment or you rent a room somewhere, this router is probably all you need for a permanent router. Under security, you've got firewall information, configuration, media access control filter, IP filter, domain filter, IP and MAC binding, which is a little ridiculous and silly. But regardless, your WPS is your wireless protected. It's the ability to connect things without having to enter the code. So you could push like a WPS button on a wireless printer and activate WPS on your router. And then for about 30 seconds, as long as both buttons are pressed within whatever the period of time it's allowed, they'll connect to each other without you having to enter SSID and password information. The Wi-Fi schedule, if you want it turned off at certain times. If we continue to scroll down, if I can work this touchpad, time zone, firmware, backup, restore. You obviously, like any router, if you make a lot of changes to it, you want to back those changes up so you don't have to reset everything after a potential firmware update or a reset situation. Your admin account and administration settings, if you want this to reboot regularly, every day at midnight or every Thursday at midnight or 2 a.m., you can set that up. Or you can reboot it manually right now. You can reset the firmware if you screwed it up 6 ways till Sunday and you're like, let me start over. That's like a CMOS clear button if you want to think of it that way. You can turn the LEDs off and on, even though there's really not much for LEDs on the unit itself. And this is essentially what OpenWrt looks like. And it doesn't really matter which router I show you, whether it's GL.iNet or Cudy or some other manufacturer. If they're opening, or rather if they're using OpenWrt, then this is all going to have more or less the same features and the same look. Now you can see this has got the company's name up here, Cudy. And if I plug this back in, just for an experiment here, I want to see what happens. I'm going to plug this back. I'm going to plug my router into this to see if I can get internet access and check the firmware. And I'll show you how we do that real quick. And we'll do that on the GL.iNet, and you'll see they're very, very similar. It may look foreign to you because you've never seen OpenWrt before. But that's the beauty of OpenWrt, is whatever uses it, it's the same, regardless of what the device looks like or who makes it. I like that Cudy includes their support information down here as well. So if we look at, let's see, firmware. Let's close that. I didn't mean to tap the button. Firmware. Now, this is looking for us to provide it a firmware. It doesn't have like an auto checking feature. So what I would do is, we know we have a TR1200. So I would just, assuming my internet's working, type in Cudy TR1200 firmware download. I am not used to this little tiny keyboard. And downloads for TR1200. Firmware, the latest is 2.1.3, and we're running, what did I say we're running? 1.16.3, which is how many versions back? Oh, it's just the previous version. So we'll hit download, and we're going to grab that firmware update. Once we have that, we're going to open it, and we're going to extract it. And that's just in our download folder. Pretty small file, about 12 megs. And then all I have to do, not to confuse you, but let me just close all this out. Close that, we'll close that, we'll close that. We're going to browse for the folder we just extracted. And within that folder, there is a file here with an extension of .bin. That is our firmware. So we're going to click on that and click open. And now it is going to wirelessly send that firmware from the laptop wirelessly to the router and reprogram the router. It wants to verify, is this really what you want? This isn't as secure as a BIOS update on a motherboard. You can kind of screw your router up if you force the wrong firmware onto it or limit its functionality. So do be sure you get the firmware update directly from the manufacturer to reduce the possibility of there being a problem afterwards. James Goodrum wants to know, why would I need a router? Well, a router is your firewall. It protects you from, it's like saying, when I go on the battlefield, why do I need to protect myself? Why do I need a shield? Well, so that when bullets or swords hit you, it doesn't cut right through you. Your firewall is armor. And it's against, when you're connecting to the internet, you're connecting to the world. You're connecting to enemies of your country that want to take you down. They want to steal your identity. They want to steal your money. They don't like you. They've never met you. But there's plenty of countries in this world that are not friendly with whatever country you're from. And when you connect to the internet, you're connecting to the entire world. So if you're going to walk out onto that battlefield, I suggest you are defensive and are properly secured, or you're going to be mincemeat. If you make it easy on them, you're not going to last on that battlefield but for seconds. Now, with regards to what else a router does, a router enables you to share files, folders, printers from one computer to another within your building. If you have multiple computers and you want to be able to share one printer, or you want to be able to share multiple files, maybe you have a YouTube video and you want to watch it on your television and you have a smart TV, as long as you're connected to the same router, the router will make sure all of your local traffic will not go out to the internet. And it keeps it almost like a traffic cop, I guess, in the sense that it's preventing certain traffic from moving in certain directions. So there's the local area network, or the LAN, and the internet, which is called the wide area network, because it's still a network, but it covers the entire globe and every country and anybody with an internet connection anywhere on this planet. So we want to separate what's local, which is ours, from what is worldwide, which could literally be every prison, as well as every mafia, every organized crime, and every non-allied country. And even if they are allied countries, that doesn't mean they're not trying. They don't have citizens who are bad guys. And so the router performs three functions for you. It gives you that armor as a firewall, a hardware firewall. Software firewalls are easily defeated in many cases. Hardware firewalls pretty much have to be in the building. It provides sharing of your local files, local folders and printers, if you want to. And it allows you to share your internet connection. Otherwise, your internet service provider could tell you, hey, you know, if you have 2 devices connected to our service, you have to pay us for 2 devices. Or if you have 3 devices. But as far as your internet service provider is concerned, when your modem is plugged into your router, that's all the modem can see is 1 device connected. And if your router is connected to 900 other devices, it doesn't know that. All your modem is seeing is the router and nothing more. And the router talks on behalf of the connected devices to the modem. The modem talks on behalf of the router to the ISP. The ISP talks to the internet to honor your request, sends your request back to the modem sends it back to the router, and the router, using something called network address translation, then forwards that information to whichever computer on the network requested it, all seamlessly. So using the internet without a firewall, and particularly a router, is likely costing you more money and putting you at more risk for no good reason, since routers are so inexpensive and easy to use. It would be insane to walk out on a battlefield against an enemy with laser-guided missiles and sniper rifles, and you're out there with a pointed stick. Would you do that? Because I wouldn't, not unless you have a death wish. All right, our router update should be done now. We should be able to log back in. And once again, under advanced settings, we can just verify our firmware version is the latest. We'll go under, what's it under? Administration. Well, it's firmware. Firewall. Oh, it's going to be under system settings. Firmware. Now we should have the latest, what it was, at 2.1.3? Yeah, perfect. That just keeps us up to date with the latest security, the latest bells, whistles, and features and performance. And again, it's OpenWrt, so you don't have to worry about any funny business going on. Now, let me go back to camera 1, because really what I wanted to focus on in this video are the products from GL.iNet. This is kind of a one-off thing. They're a little cheaper than GL.iNet. It also doesn't have the power and performance of some of the GL.iNets I have here. And it's going to be priced accordingly, right? For 40 bucks versus 15 bucks, or $30 versus $15 versus, $129. You get what you pay for. Now, whether or not you need that or have use for it, I can't tell you. I just want you to understand why they're priced. It's not just random throwing a dart at the wall going, that one's $30. That's not how it works. Let me sign out of this really quickly, and then we'll hook up a different one. So bear with me for a second. I know there's a, you know what? I don't even have to log out of it. If I just close the browser window down, and then I will just pull these, there's only 2 cables. This is coming from my internet, and this is the power. I just fold the antennas down, put it back in the box. That's how easy it is. If you're traveling and you want to set it up with a hotel, a lot of times the hotels will have a wired connection. You don't have to connect it to a wired connection. You can connect it to the hotel's Wi-Fi, but it's going to eat up some of your Wi-Fi bandwidth to communicate with you Wi-Fi, right? Let's say you've got a laptop like I do here, which once again, apart from our HDMI cable, we're on batteries on this whole example here. So cabling is almost zero, because you wouldn't be hooking this up unless you wanted to hook it up to your hotel TV. And then you could have your laptop or your mini PC on your hotel TV if you wanted to, if you brought an HDMI cable with you. Okay, so let's take a look at, okay, let's talk about these different router models. Let's start with this one here, the Barrel. It looks like GL.iNet names their routers after rocks. Let's take a look. Let me go over to, or stones. We have Barrel, Opal, Creta, Marble, Slate. Let's start with Barrel. Now, the units I'm going to show you here on the Amazon page are currently sold out because they're refurbished. They're very inexpensive, and they sell out quickly when they offer the refurbished or renewed models. I've never had a problem with any of the renewed models personally. However, if you wanted to buy these new, I'm sure they're available for sale new. The links I have are for the renewed ones because they were really good price. You'll see 10 ratings, all 5 stars. Everybody's happy. Now this is going to be gigabit ports. It can be used as a range extender and access point. It's got the microSD card slot for use it to share files. You could use it, I believe, as a SIM card reader. You've got 2 LAN ports instead of 1. If you wanted to hardwire your network, your portable network, you still have the same button on the side as well as reset button, USB-C power. All of that's the same, and it's going to be using that OpenWrt firmware. If we move over to the next one, we've got the GL.iNet. This is the Opal. Notice the speed here. The network speed on this is 1200. The network speed on this one's 1300. These are going to be very similar in price. One's just one minor step above on performance, supporting IP version 6. And of course, it supports multi in, multi out, DDR3 RAM. Each one gets a little bit better, a little more advanced with processor and power. This is the 750, which does 300 megabits per second on the 2.4, plus 433 on the 5 at the same time. That's how we're getting to 750. Let's go over to this one. So this will be the latest and greatest. This is the AXT 1800. That's a Wi-Fi 6 gigabit travel router. Once again, you've got 2 LAN ports with the 1 WAN port. So 2 local network wired connections that you can optionally choose to use. Then your WAN connection to provide you with your internet source or your network source that you want to share. On the front, you've got a USB 2 port, sorry, the USB 3 port, what it looks like. It can be used again as a repeater. You can use it as a VPN client or server. We can look at their little promotional video here that GL.iNet has made that walks you through setting these up using a transflash card, which is another name for a microSD card. I don't know why they had to add more unnecessary jargon to what was already named, but a TF card and a microSD card are the same thing with 2 different names. Gary and Gaz in the UK. All right. Again, a simple walkthrough here on how to hook it up. In this case, they're showing a wired connection to the router versus connecting to it wirelessly, which is what I demonstrated earlier. Here, they're setting it up wirelessly for some reason after they've set it up wired. I'm not quite sure. I'm not really paying attention to if I missed anything. But the point I'm trying to make is GL.iNet has their own videos. So you don't have to watch a creator and hope the creator's giving you good content. When we look over at YouTube, we can see this channel called GL.iNet, which is their YouTube channel. And here they're introducing a brand new router called the Marble. And what's interesting about this router is it's not really intended to be a portable router, but a home router that you can use as a digital picture frame. So it doesn't look like a router. You can hang it on the wall like a picture and have digital pictures displayed on it. And if we go back one more time, I went too far back. Go forward. And we can click on their YouTube channel, GL.iNet, and you can see all of their videos are very short and they give you some product overviews, unboxings, initial setups. how to utilize certain features and tethering, like you could tether this to your cell phone internet if you wanted to, etc. There's not a whole lot of content here, but it's short and sweet and to the point. Some product comparisons, the Barrel AX versus just the regular Barrel, right? And why there's a price difference and whether or not that matters to you. These videos are fairly recent, within the last year, this one just a couple months ago. And yeah, it's great to see this kind of support from a company other than telling you to download a PDF file and good luck with that, you know. Walkthrough videos, I'm a big fan of, if you couldn't guess. I'm a show me guy, you know, show me. The Marble router is not out yet. However, it looks like a really neat idea. This is not Wi-Fi 6E or 7. This is not for high power users. This is for people who care how it looks. This is for people who don't want a device on the counter blinking lights. These are for people that want something that's going to blend in with their environment and also function as a router that no one would ever guess that was a router. That's a great idea. Certainly not for a power user, but for a practical user. Now, let me go back over to camera 1 here. Here we go. And let's open up, let's skip these 3, right? Because these are all different levels of lesser Wi-Fi tech, selling at a bargain basement price as far as I'm concerned. And here we've got the latest and greatest Slate AX. Now, we bought all of these except this one. The folks at GL.iNet sent us the Slate AX for review months ago, and I'm just now getting time to show these to you. And I'm probably doing myself a disservice by not defaulting to this and instead using this one. However, this isn't really affecting my internet speed here. This is mostly if you want to transfer files on a local area network. So let's say I'm working on a video project and I need to edit it, render it, and then I want to send it over to, let's say, Mara, and she has to do something to that video and upload it. And we're traveling, maybe we're at a trade show. And maybe I've spent all day filming and interviewing people at the trade show, maybe Computex in Singapore. And we want to get that information uploaded to YouTube as soon as possible. So we go back to the hotel, we set this up using the hotel's Wi-Fi, and then we can work together as though we're in an office and then upload that file and then go to bed and then start over on the next day of the, this is what content creators do. And having something like this is going to make that so much easier. Otherwise, when I'm done working on a file, I have to put it onto a flash drive or a portable hard drive and then hand it to Mara for her to plug into her computer, copy the file over. Now she's got a copy of the file. I have a copy of the file. She might be modifying the file, but my file's not getting modified. So when she's done, we have to remember which one is the latest version. Give me that and let me put it over here, or I need to delete mine, but now we have no backup. So being able to share the files for collaboration within the same building is secure, it's fast, it's very convenient and very optimized. Now in this box, it's going to be laid out, I imagine, identically. I've not opened this one before. So we've got a registration card here. We've got a Let's Get Started pamphlet with warranty information as well. And then we've got the unit right here, which is going to be just a little bit bigger than the other units because it's got more power. It's going to be more powerful. It's going to have the 2 LAN ports. It needs to have room for you to plug these cables in. The unit must be bigger unless the cables are getting smaller. As far as I know, the end of an RJ45 jack is still always going to be the same. And then underneath this lid right here, we've got a flat, looks like a 6 or 8 foot Ethernet cable. And we've got our power brick, same as the other, but this one's in black. And then we have the little US style plug. So depending on what country you come with, you'll get the corresponding plug that goes with your country. They don't give us all the plugs. Suppose there's probably a way you can purchase them separately. Now this is significantly heavier and quite a bit larger than the other units I've shown you. Just to give you some perspective, you'll see there's no external antennas on this little guy, so its range is going to be limited. It's also not a very powerful processor. There's a reason why this is $14.90, and this is about $100 more than that. And if you look at all the connections we have back here, our options, the fact that USB 3, we're still going to have power through USB-C. The antennas are going to fold up just like that orange one from Cudy. Like I say, comparing Cudy to GL.iNet is like comparing Ford and Chevy. They're in the same product category. And if you didn't know what you were looking at, they probably look the same to you. So I can fold the antennas up if I want to. We've got our, I think the button to turn off the lights and reset over here, something like that. We've got our MicroSD card reader here. And then that's it. That's all there is. Where are the lights on this? Let's plug it in and find out. This will be the first time I'm ever plugging this in. It's been patiently waiting for me to get to it. Like, hey, did you forget about me? So we'll give it power. Same USB cable I've been using. Oh, there is a light right there. Okay. And I'll plug my internet. Where is my internet? So this is my other router. And we'll plug that into the wide area network. That's going to go to the internet. The local area network could be any PCs that I want to connect to this router using a wire instead of wireless, or a mixture. I can do both. One PC could be wired, the tablet and the phone, and another PC could be wireless, just like a regular everyday home router. You can mix and match to whatever you want. Paul Garrett said he was at a big office the other day. They had 49 wireless connections. I'm seeing that in homes now with thermostats, garage door openers, Ring doorbell cameras, security cameras. I've seen refrigerators, washers, and dryers all connecting to the internet. Plus, everybody's got their own phone connecting. So depending on the number of people that live in the house, mother, father, 2 kids, there's 4 more wireless connections. Every TV has a wireless connection. It's easy to hit 40 to 60 Wi-Fi connections in the average American home at this time. That's not unusual. In offices, I'm usually seeing somewhere, depending on the size of the office, something similar. The office typically doesn't have as many IoT devices as a home does, usually. All right, let me go back to this laptop. Let's see what we can do to log into this bad boy here and see what it looks like. Again, it's going to be OpenWrt. It's likely going to be an old version, which is fine. You can use it that way. I prefer to get the most bang for my buck. So I want the latest firmware in order to ensure the best performance, the latest features, and the best security, because it doesn't cost me anything. So let's go to our HDMI input, back to our laptop. There it is. And let's see if we were assigned. Oh, I have to connect to it here. So what's this one called? This one is called, I'm looking on the sticker on the bottom, GL.AXT 1800, GL.AXT. And there's the 5G, and this is the 2.4. So we want the 5G. I'll say connect automatically. It wants the security key. And in this case, it says my key is not a phrase, but a mixture of letters and numbers, and it is case sensitive, so we'll enter that now. At least this one's big enough I can read it. Now, of course, you are welcome to change this key, but when you do so, it's up to you to remember what the key is or put your own sticker on it, because the sticker is permanent. All right, so we'll just keep it there, keep it simple anyway. But I would definitely change the SSID, because anybody who was a decent hacker would automatically know what the defaults of this manufacturer. You can tell it's GL.iNet. If you were a hacker that was at least 20% knowledgeable, this would be considered basic knowledge. And I might have entered the key wrong, right? We've all done that. Let's try that again. Enter the local key. Enter our security ID. Okay, one more time. Maybe I'll have better luck this time. Sometimes 8s and Bs and even 6s and 8s can look alike. Might be typing an 8 when it should be a capital B as in boy. Okay, we're connected. Very good. I don't know why it doesn't have any internet, but I'm not worried about that at this time. So once again, we can type ipconfig. Oh, I left my caps lock on. ipconfig, and our default gateway is 192.168.8.1. That's going to be our router. Gateway and a router, same thing in this case. 192.168.8.1. Okay, this is our first time setup, which we didn't see in the prior units because I had already set those up. So this is a great example of what your out-of-box experience would look like. And I think GL.iNet already has videos showing this anyway. So it might be a little redundant. They definitely want us to set a new password here. So let's go ahead and we turn off prevent weak password because I don't mind setting this up with a weak password. It won't be plugged in 24/7, and I won't be using it anywhere. Anybody will have time to really hack at it. And if I was, I'd change it again. It's very easy to change. So once again, we mostly have the exact same interface. Everything over here on the left, the name of the company and our version. We can go over to system. We've got an exclamation. They want us to set our time zone. And we are in Phoenix, which is GMT -7 or UTC -7. And then we'll look at the time zone of the router is different from that of your browser. Interesting. What is, I don't know what my browser is set to. I don't know. It looks it's set to LA. Whatever, that's fine. Right now, Phoenix is on the same time as Pacific. In the fall, Pacific will go back an hour. Everybody will, except Arizona and I think Hawaii. All right, anyway, let's go back over to system. Let's see, upgrade. Online upgrade. Now this has, it says a new firmware is available. So the cheaper routers didn't have the auto checking. Let's go ahead and install because we're going right from the manufacturer. And you'll notice, even though it's still OpenWrt, it is a different version. Before we were looking from version 2.1 or something to 1.6 to 2.3. This is version 4 point something going to a bigger 4 point something. It's downloading the firmware for us automatically and updating it for us automatically. Because it's more expensive, it gives you more conveniences, just like anything else. The Mesh TV network wants to know how is the speed when you use the VPN. That depends on your VPN service provider. I don't personally use any VPN service because I think they're all a scam. I wouldn't waste my time or money with it. However, there are a few occasions and a few exceptions where using a VPN would be wise. But you should, in my opinion, my advice is, if you're wondering how a VPN is a scam and why it doesn't do what you likely think it's going to do, just type that into your YouTube search, VPN scam, and you'll find countless creators warning you that a VPN will not only slow your connection down and cost you money, but likely isn't giving you the security you think it's giving you. And then you can decide how you want to proceed. How fast it goes, it will always be slower because it's a VPN. It has to encrypt and decrypt. And you might already be encrypting or decrypting through an HTTPS, or in my case, I like to connect remotely and do any financial transactions to my computer at my home. And the remote software encrypts it. So double and triple encrypting it is stupid, worthless, and slows your connection down for no good reason. But again, there are some exceptions. Most companies, when you remote in, they have their own VPN they require, so you would not be providing it, nor would you have any say in the speed or performance of the company that you work for. You work for them, they don't work for you. You like it or lump it or come back into the office. If you want to work remotely, you're the employee. So how the VPN, the speed, it's going to have a number of variables, how much data you're transferring and who your VPN provider is, or if you've created your own OpenVPN and how what you're running it as a server on, whether it's the server side or the client side. So it's just a question I can't answer. Too many possibilities. It's like asking what kind of mileage you can get in your car. I don't know how you drive. Are you a lead foot? Do you live in an area that's got a lot of increases and decreases in altitude? Are you driving it offline? I'm not offline. Are you driving it off road? I'm such a geek. Are you driving it? What kind of gas are you putting into it? Are you keeping your tires inflated? Do you keep the oil changes up? Oh my gosh. It just, there's a range and it falls within the normal range. All right. Sorry, guys. I just can't answer some of your questions. There are just too many variables. All right. Now we should have that latest firmware that was offered, 4.5.16. And if we look under system, let's see if there is another one. We go to upgrade. Firmware is up to date. You can also get a preview version, like a beta, if you want to turn that on. Or if you want to just verify you've got the latest, we can go to their website. So in this case, we'll look up GL.iNet AX. What was this called? Slate AX. Firmware download. And we want to look, we don't want this. We want it from GL.iNet, not from Firmware Selector. We want to go to GL.iNet. Which is not offering. That's interesting. Let's just type in Slate AX support. Okay, now we're on GL.iNet. And we should be able to then go to support, firmware download center, select our product. So the GL.iNet AXT Slate AX, that's us right there. Okay, so it says we have stable releases, beta releases. I want to look at the stable releases. It says the latest stable release came out March 21st this year at 4.5.16, and we have 4.5.16. I've seen discrepancies where the automatic one is giving us an older version. So I just like to verify on my own, and I always want to make sure I'm getting it directly from the manufacturer. Not that you can't go to the previous link that we saw from OpenWrt. It's just, I hope you're a technical person to go to the OpenWrt firmware selector, because there's lots of different flavors. The idea here is that you would put in the make and model. So we have an AX 1800 GL, GL.iNet, GL, EX. What am I missing? anyway, you need to be more of a technical person. There's no reason why you should be getting it direct from OpenWrt when your manufacturer provides it. It's less confusing and you're less likely going to make a mistake. But you do whatever you want to do. Once again, we essentially have the same interface here. Our 5 gigahertz network and our 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi and our 2.4 gigahertz network. I'm sorry, our 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi and our 2.4 guest Wi-Fi. Remember, a guest account does not give the user anything other than internet. They cannot see any computers on your network or any shared files, folders, or printers. They're isolated onto the internet only, all by themselves, regardless. So if you have an office and you're dealing with a lot of critical data and you have a customer come in that wants to use your Wi-Fi, you put them on your guest network and they cannot see any of your business files or printers or any resources. It's just as though they have their own connection to the internet. They are isolated from you. If they download a virus, it doesn't impact you or your network, and they cannot see any of your files. All right, so that's what a guest network is. Guest network is great for things like the Internet of Things, things that you don't want to have access to your local area network, such as your security cameras, your thermostat, your garage door opener. All that stuff can be virus infected, especially if you're buying some no-name brand stuff out of China. Who knows what spyware they might be putting on there. Throw that on their guest network. Who cares? They're all isolated, not only from your network, but from each other. So let them have whatever they want to do. Potentially, they can do whatever they want, and it won't make any difference in your security or in your privacy. We have our network options in here, our network mode, which is very important to work as a router, an extender, a WDS, which your router you have to have another router that you're connecting this to, obviously, if it's an extender, or WDS, which is a type of extender. And then, of course, an access point where you're connecting it to another router. So you're only having one router do the DNS, the network address translation and the DHCP. So if that's all gibberish to you, you don't have to worry about it. You can just plug this in, let it default as I have, and it should just work. It's for the people who are more technical that might find that useful. Your VPN options are also in here. OpenVPN and Wireguard. There's entire videos on YouTube for how to set up. For example, if we go to YouTube and we search for set up Wireguard GL.iNet, and you'll find many tutorials for people who want to do that. These are made by GL.iNet. They're 5 and 7 minutes long here. And then you'll find individual content creators have also made this content themselves over and 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 over. Like this person's talking about how he's saving money on a cruise ship because cruise ship Wi-Fi is very expensive. If you've ever been on a cruise ship, take one of these with you. You're going to save a lot of money. Also, Las Vegas hotels can also be expensive. So I've never watched this video, but I can tell by looking at it at 5 minutes and 40 seconds long here, that would be interesting to me if I wanted to learn more detail about the benefit of a travel router, how to use your phone, different travel routers, defining what might be best for you. There's so much content here. I won't go through it all, but just so you know, just to make sure I've raised your awareness that this stuff exists, that it might interest you. Okay, let me go back over to camera 1 and let's see if you guys have any questions for me in regard to these little travel routers. And if you are curious if it can be used for something I've not addressed. And if I know the answer, I'll tell you. And if I don't know the answer, I'll tell you. But also know we have very knowledgeable people in our community here in the chat. So watch the chat for answers as well. Photomix Media is asking about VPN scams. Well, the scam is that the VPN companies want you to believe they're providing you with a type of security that they really aren't. It's a false, it's misleading and deceptive at best, in my opinion. And a lot of people are needlessly spending money and slowing their connections down for security theater. Like if you were gaming on a VPN, that'd be such a waste of time and money that would only inhibit your gaming experience for no benefit. It's only costing you money you don't need to spend for a service that doesn't benefit you, that slows your connection down to give you a worse experience. So in that way, yeah, it's a scam because VPNs are generally not being honest. So if we go back over, let's go back to this machine real quick, just to give you an example. None of this is my content, but I wholeheartedly agree with it. Let me go back to YouTube and we'll just type in, and again, I don't encourage you to take anybody's word for anything. If you're interested in learning more, type in the search and educate yourself. I don't want to force an education on you that you're not interested in, and I don't want to give you a one-on-one personal tutorial unless you're specifically paying me for my time. Well, all the other viewers' eyes glaze over and they lose interest. So Kitboga is a very respectable scam exposer, primarily with the people who call you and tell you, you know, you have to get gift cards to pay for something. So when he's telling you VPN companies are lying to you, he comes across to me as a very honest and direct person and has a history of being honest and direct without exception that I'm aware of. And, you know, here's somebody I've never heard of saying why I no longer use a VPN. Here's VPN Pro. Is it a big scam? This is an opinion, just as mine is an opinion. But you will find more video content here that will take you through the end of tonight and into tomorrow and next week if you want to just keep watching and seeing what the common denominators are that people are warning you about. Don't use a VPN, the YouTube scam. A little this is mixed in with scammer videos, okay? So there's a little bit of that in our search results. Now, the security risks of free public Wi-Fi, even though that's 5 years old, are a good reason why you want to use an encrypted connection when you're doing anything financial or email, something private. Not only can people look over your shoulder, but if the data is not encrypted. And now, in many cases today, you're going to be up to an HTTPS, which is going to be a secure connection, which negates any benefit of the VPN. It just slows you down needlessly. And do VPNs affect privacy or are they a scam? There's all this content. I encourage you to educate yourself and come to your own conclusion. It doesn't make any difference to me what you choose to believe. I don't use a VPN, and you've never seen me promote a VPN here on the channel. I doubt you ever will. But we've never really gotten into that subject matter. So I don't need to recreate the content that's already been created because what's the point? It's already been covered. Ridiculously amounts of data is there. The content is there. I've got nothing more to add. So I'm going to advise you to watch their content. Smash TV recommends using a VPN to lie to a streaming service to illegally violate the restrictions that copyright owners place on their content. It encourages that kind of theft. Yeah, if you want to use VPN as a thief and a pirate, you certainly can, but that has nothing to do with your privacy. That's about theft. So if you want to, I don't promote theft, but some people in the chat do. Peter contributes €2, joining us from Amsterdam. Thank you, Peter. Any questions? If you've asked a computer question, If you've asked a technical question earlier, I didn't see it if I didn't answer it. I am paying attention to the chat right now, and I'm happy to address, if I know the answer, questions related to routers, PC security, these travel routers specifically. If there's anything I've left that is not clear to you, this will be the time to ask. And as a reminder, we have many very knowledgeable folks here in the chat room, especially if their name is in blue or they have that gold badge next to their name. They're likely a trustworthy source, but I always encourage you to verify any information you believe to be true that you gleaned from the internet. I don't even care if it's your local television news station. They lie too. So you need to get, if it's important to you to be right, if it's important to you to have accurate information, you need to verify it from multiple sources, preferably 3 or more. And those sources should all be reputable sources, or at least one of them should be reputable, with the other 2 not arguing or debating the information. If you can't be bothered, then please do not propagate that to anybody else, because you might be propagating false information and be a part of the problem that we're trying to defeat by doing this. I will not scroll back and look for any questions. You guys need to retype your questions. I can only scroll back so far, and it's very crowded, and I'm not going to do an Easter egg hunt for your question. But if you want to copy and paste your question, once again, you need to sort of bump it up so I can see it. I mean, I want to help you, but I'm not going to spoon feed you and wipe your mouth, and I'm not your mother. So show a little courtesy. If you would like me to address your question, this will be the time to ask it. All right, guys. So I'm not seeing any more questions here. I think that's going to wrap it up for us. I will start using the new AX1800 instead of this Cudy. The only reason I was using the Cudy is I got into a habit. So when this new unit came in, it just sat for no good reason, other than I suppose I wanted to show you a live unboxing without me having done anything prior to the video to prepare. So you get a genuine unboxing experience. So if that had been dead on arrival, then we would have seen a dead on arrival product. And then you might go, oh, I wonder how many of those they send that are dead. We very rarely, if ever, see that. Can you tell me the last time you saw me do a brand new unboxing and the product out of the box didn't work of any category? Pretty rare. So the quality control and the automation in manufacturing is leading to devices that are smaller than ever, more consistent than ever in quality. And even when it comes to shipping, the way that they're designing their boxes now are less likely to create any sort of scuffs or scratches because everything's in these bags. And if you ever see an unboxing where somebody takes, the content creator takes some electronic computer gadget or computer, like a mini PC, and there's no bag, that means they unboxed it off camera. And they're not being honest to you if they don't disclose that. And they say, oh, we're going to unbox this for the first time. Or it means they got a used unit. But if it's honest and it's real, you can tell, because it's going to have the bag. The bag's not going to be all wrinkled up. It's going to look like a brand new, unwrinkled bag. Even if I put this back in the bag and try to replicate the unboxing, you can see the difference. And if there's no full disclosure admitting that to you, you're being lied to. Or at the very least, information is being omitted, and you should be aware of that, for better or for worse. I don't like scripted, polished, edited videos any more than I would want a scripted and polished and edited life. You know what? Yesterday wasn't a good day. Let's just take that out of the week, okay? Just cut Tuesday out. And the weekend was really good, so let's extend that to one more day. And you know what? Let's move that to after Wednesday. So let's put Saturday, Sunday, and Sunday plus, and then let's go to Thursday, and then let's cut Monday in half, and let's go right to the end of Friday, and let's say that was our week. That's what editors do. It's a form of entertainment. It's also a way of making a commercial. If people like commercials, have at it. We go at a slower pace, just like if we were hanging out together in real life. You wouldn't edit me. We wouldn't sit down to dinner and edit the dinner arriving and then edit the plates being empty and edit us being full. We would go through that experience or we wouldn't do it. So I'm trying to create a real virtual experience, not a pretend virtual experience. And some people don't get it. And that's okay. But that's not on me. All I'm saying. All right, I do see some questions coming in now. Andy wants to know if the network cable I plugged into this router was plugged into the WAN port. Yes, I said I was plugging it into the WAN port. You don't have to. So I've got a router plugged into a router. So this router is acting as its own DHCP server and doing its own network address translation. And this can cause problems for some people. You can plug it in from a router into the LAN port, and that will help set this into an access point mode versus router mode. But you can also do that in the firmware. So hopefully that clarifies any confusion. I'm trying to represent how most people would use this. And you can see from the demonstration that's live here that it works regardless. So I'm not sure why that matters to you. But for clarity and to answer your question, it is in the WAN port. Ben Laird wants to know, would you use a non-router internet? Mobile internet? Yeah, sure. This is a router, so that's what it does. And you can disable the router part of it if you're plugging into another router, or you can leave it on. In most cases, it works either way. It's smart enough, it figures it out. Let's see. Photomix Media says, what if hotels have a website that you have to enter and accept their terms of agreement? That's called a portal. And if you need to access a portal to access a guest network, like some hotels do, what we would do in that case is we can go over to, let's go back over to the laptop here for a second. And go back to the top here. And how to, we'll just access, this keyboard is just off kilter. Access hotel portal on, wow, my typing is bad today on Truffle Router. Whoopsie. So here's a complete setup here, and they will walk you through the steps on how you could set this up. And it may be slightly varied depending on the model. And we would have to pull one of these up and watch it to see how they're advising you to get through that. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. It's a fair enough question, but it's no big deal. I just can't specifically tell you what the steps are. It's been a long, long time since I've logged into anywhere that had a portal. But fair enough, fair question for sure. But it won't be a stopping point. That's just an education point. It's not a limiter. It's not like you can't do it. It's been such a long time, I just can't remember. But I know the answers right there. And in fact, I could probably just even do an old-fashioned Google search just to see if I can get a quick text answer without watching a video. You should watch the video, though. It's a captive portal, or it's sometimes called captive, where you have to go to a website first. The travel router is designed to connect to the hotel or cafe captive networks, and it broadcasts a regular private network, which you can then connect the portal to. The GL.iNet Barrel AX, they found this works easier because, one, it's easier to set up. The router has a much beefier antenna, so it gets a better Wi-Fi signal to your devices than what the hotel has. And instead of connecting to the portal directly, you're connecting to the portal through the Wi-Fi router. And it looks like there's a large Reddit discussion on this subject, where one person said it didn't work for me, and the other person said it works fine, don't know what you're talking about. So it depends on the device you're using. So on this router here, I just so happened to pull up on the Reddit discussion, they're saying it works super easy, it's seamless. I'd have to go somewhere where there's a captive portal, so that we would have to sign into that to demonstrate it. But it should be seamless. Just plug it in and connect to the router, and it should work. The portal will come up on the screen of the device that you're connecting to your router. And then when you put the information in, it releases the information to the router. So it shouldn't come up on any other connected devices, I think. So as far as the hotel is concerned, you connected one device, not, as many devices as you want to connect to that within reasonable limits to that router. That's what the router does. It hides everything behind it. So it looks like you've only got one device connected. So, fair question. What are the TF, the transflash slots for? Primarily for file storage, right? It's like having your own little storage server. So you could put like a 1 terabyte MicroSD card in there, or transflash card in there, and you can use that for file sharing. What else can you use that for? Sort of like a NAS, if you will. Network attached storage. Apparently you can use the TF card slot to advance your ROM space for more advanced firmware that doesn't fit, for example. It can be used even to put your firmware update on the transflash device. I don't know why you do it that way, but I suppose you could. If you had access issues with accessing it through the network, you could then somehow use that to update, the force an update if the unit wasn't working. So mostly what it's used for is storage, network attached storage. And then you can share files amongst all of the computers connected to the router, not on the guest network, but whether they're wired or wireless into that router. Just imagine taking your office and all of your employees and going to another office. So for example, if one of my clients suffered some tragedy or crisis or catastrophe at their office, so let's take a lawyer's office. So this lawyer's office has 10 employees, and the lawyer's office was just hit with a tornado, a robbery, or had burned to the ground. but they still have to go to work. But where do you go? Well, they're going to call their computer guy. They're going to say, Carey, we need some computers. We need our software. We need our backups. And we need to set us up. We're going to take care of it. The employer is going to figure out where they're going to go. They could rent out a conference room in a hotel, or they might do a short-term lease or rental in a strip mall, some vacant area, and say, we need you to, all of our computers are destroyed. All of our data is gone. We pay you to have our backups. We need you to set us back up, and we're just going to be temporary. We don't want all brand new equipment. The insurance company is going to provide all new equipment to us. So we need you to provide us enough to get us by. We're not going to get a whole brand new network attached storage if we don't have to. We're not going to set up another server. We just need some computers that can run our software so our employees can either remote in or come on into this temporary office space. And if they have less than a terabyte of data, which pretty much all of my clients have less than a terabyte of data, I could, in theory, restore the backup onto the transflash card, plug that into this little router, and then set this up for them with some used or even mini PCs and get them back up and running in likely less than an hour. On the other hand, if I was traveling and say Maura and I were doing the Computex show in Taipei, we could set this up in the hotel. She could have her laptop, I can have my laptop, and we can work and collaborate on these projects together as though we were in the office. So whether or not you see a benefit to that depends on what your use case scenario is, but that's what it's for. Andy Archer says there is a checkbox on the more expensive GL.iNet boxes to enable a guest portal. So a guest portal from the hotel, or to create a guest portal on this unit here. Let's take another look at it. Let's go back. We have a few minutes. Let's investigate that a little bit. Let me go back to my laptop and let's log back in. Once again, just looking up some of your questions here, because for me to explain them, there may be other functions I'm not aware of. So I'm looking this up just to make sure the answer to your questions are being answered accurately. So let's do this. This is 192. What did I say this was? 10.1, 8.1? I can't remember. And let's see, clients, this will show us who's attached. So this is the laptop, it shows our speeds. We can block anybody that's attached we don't want to be attached. We can see who's been attached in the past. And again, we can block them if we don't want them to have access. If they're smart enough, they'll change the MAC address, but most people don't even know what a MAC address is, let alone how to change it. Okay. Internet. I'm wondering if the portal is something this offers on the guest network. Not for bypassing a portal, but to create one. A lot of features in here. So for those of you that are more technically inclined, I would encourage you to look at the videos that other content creators have created on this subject matter, as well as you can pull up the PDF document from the manufacturer or even from OpenWrt if you're into that level of technical knowledge. I don't believe most of our viewers will see any benefit of this. It'll probably be like speaking another language to them. But I would encourage you, if I have introduced you to a subject that you would like to dig into, to go ahead and start digging. I have made the introduction, and then you may choose to walk away with no further interest, or you may choose to investigate further at the depth that you're comfortable with. It's right there at your keyboard. But if there are other questions that I can answer, I'd certainly be happy to answer them if I know the answer. Clearly, this isn't something I've familiarized myself with recently, and the last time I messed with a captive portal was a long time ago, so I don't even remember. And I certainly have never used this device before, let alone in that scenario. So yeah, some of your questions I just don't know. Oystein's joining us from Norway. Good to see you, my friend. Are USB storage devices supported? Yes, any USB device, whether it's a hotspot, storage device, or a printer, any of that will be supported on the USB, just like any other router. Seems there are several of you that are more familiar with the process of logging into the captive portal than I am. This video is really not intended for you. This video is intended for an introduction to people who are not aware of what these are, why you might want one, and whether or not they would see a value in that. So just to be clear, my channel is not an enthusiast home lab channel, but rather one for the everyday user. And so sometimes when we get a little too technical, I need to remind people that we're here with a general audience. And I feel that the general audience is being ignored on the technical side of YouTube, that it's typically content created by enthusiasts for enthusiasts. And there's nothing more insulting than talking over people's heads as a very passive aggressive way of saying they're not welcome. So we want to welcome everybody here and talk in a plain, easy to understand, digestible language. And the minute things get technical, you'll see I push back because there's more than enough of that already here on YouTube. And what we're trying to do is keep it simple and straightforward. If it's too simple and straightforward for you, you aren't the intended target audience. And if you know information about these that I don't know, I appreciate you sharing it. But please do keep in mind not to get too technical here, because what I don't want to happen is I don't want to have a whole slew of anxiety or concern from people who don't understand the context of that level of information. Again, it's a very passive aggressive way of telling people they're not welcome. And I don't want to proliferate that here on this channel. There's enough of that on the tech side of YouTube, in my opinion. Not enough of this. Paul Connolly says, that's a great introduction to these travel routers, Carey. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Paul. That's all we're trying to do. We're making an introduction. We're showing you what's available. Whether or not you see any value in that, I don't know you. I don't know. But if you didn't know they existed, it may never have occurred to you to solve a problem you might have with something that might cost you 15 bucks. It might be all you need. So, and by the way, when you plug this thing in, it doesn't look any different. It's going to have the same firmware. It doesn't have as many features. It doesn't have the performance or the range. It's got $15 worth. So if this router over here is over $100 and this one's $15, this one does about 8 times more than this one, roughly. That's a good rule of thumb, especially when it's all made by the same manufacturer. So they're not really competing against themselves. They're offering different solutions to meet the needs of different people, including different budgets, different limitations, and different features that some people will never use and some people cannot live without. And then the price accordingly. All right, so we're just at about the 2-hour mark here. I like to keep these under 2 hours when possible. Peter says, that's how I met you, Carey, just to keep it simple, and anyone who wants to learn it can do it. Anyone, if you pay a little attention in the classroom. That's it, right? I'm showing you how a shovel works, but I'm not going to help you dig a hole. That's too much work, and it ignores everybody else in the room. If you want to dig the hole, here's the shovel, here's how it works. Knock yourself out. So if you want to take what I'm learning and run with it, I encourage you to do so. If you want to take what I'm learning and demand more from me, that's all I got, unless you pay me. If you're not interested and you take what I'm offering and throw it on the ground and walk away, that's fine too. Because there's going to be several thousand people around the world that watch this video of varying cultures, ages, and budgets and needs. We don't know who they are or who they're going to be. So we try to make it a universal appeal and provide enough information so that each viewer can determine their individual value on the subject matter without any consequence to me, without any benefit to me. It doesn't make a difference. It's just there for education. If you're not interested in the education, that's fine. And if you're fascinated with it and you want to learn more, you've got a keyboard and an internet connection. Go as deep as you want to go down that rabbit hole. I encourage any of the above as the right response. If you go to GL.iNet's website, you'll see they offer more than what we have here on the table. And if you're interested in GL.iNet's, one of their competitors, Cudy, they might suit you better, or you might see why one brand may be more favored than another brand, depending on your individual values. So again, I'm trying to provide the full information. I'm not making a commercial for either of these brands. It's just there to show the variety that's available to you. And that's assuming you're even interested in the subject matter. And then what needs you have, what features you need, how many devices you're going to connect, what speeds you want, and what budget you want it under. Yeah, that's all on you. Okay, so I think, did I answer all the questions? Someone said they could use it on a road trip. Usually on a road trip, people are going to use their phones because you're going to have internet access with your phone. But if somebody's got a tablet or a Kindle and it doesn't have cellular access, you can always turn, if you have a modern phone, it has a tethering option and you can tether your Wi-Fi on your phone. You can create a hotspot with your phone just in the area of your car. May not be necessarily helpful in a hotel room, which you're covering a bigger distance, but within a short amount of distance, and assuming you have the internet bandwidth available in your Wi-Fi, in your cellular plan rather, you could, assuming you have an expensive enough phone that has tethering. On the other hand, if you have more of a flip phone or a basic cellular phone that doesn't offer tethering, then you would need a Wi-Fi hotspot provided by your cellular phone carrier, and you would plug that into your router here, or you can simply buy one that's already a router and not use these, and not use hotel Wi-Fi, and just use your own cellular hotspot, which will be far more secure and reliable. But when you are driving through areas where the connection is spotty, there's not much you're going to do about it. Everybody in the car will be affected by that, no differently than having that conversation with somebody in the car and then they just drop and then they call you back. Sorry, I was driving through the mountains, or I was driving through a rural area. That's going to happen to your internet if it's happening on the phone calls as well. But yeah, you don't have to buy an individual device. You can go to your cell phone carrier and simply buy what's called a hotspot and then buy as much bandwidth as you think you're going to need. That can get really pricey, but it depends on your carrier and it depends on your bandwidth needs. James Bond says variety, price, affordability, usability. Oystein said you could use USB to go from the phone to plug in to the router. Yeah, if your phone supports that. Not all phones do. The higher end phones, like everything from like a Galaxy S20 on up, their flagship phone should support. It's still tethering. It's whether or not it's Wi-Fi tethering or wired tethering. They all don't necessarily, just because it's a smartphone, doesn't mean it offers that. So, but potentially that may be an option depending on what phone you have. We tried broadcasting from Studio B doing that, and it worked, but it was costing me somewhere around $75 for 4 hours of upload bandwidth. And the amount of uploads that I do and the amount of hours I do a month, I wasn't making that much. So that didn't work for us. And it also wasn't super reliable, but it was our better than nothing plan that we tried. It just didn't work out for us for all those reasons: expense, reliability. When it costs more to make the video than the video makes, how's that going to work over the long haul? Just isn't. But when you're traveling, I mean, theoretically, you're going on a road trip maybe once a year. So that's part of your road trip expense, and it shouldn't be too bad, I would think. And when the road trip's over, you can just turn it off. Peter says he has unlimited 5G. I've never seen anything truly unlimited. Usually once you hit a certain amount, it slows you down to the point where you can't even watch YouTube videos. So technically, yes, you're unlimited, but there's always a limit, even if they don't tell you up front what it is. And once you surpass that, your connection speed drops by about 90% in most cases. So be aware that's what unlimited usually means. At least here in the United States. I can't speak for Amsterdam, but that's how it works here. All right, guys, that'll wrap it up for me for today. Thank you so much for watching. A shout out to our friend Buster out there in Scotland, who'll be watching us later, I hope. And we're thinking of you. Thank you to everybody who's contributed to today's broadcast, and our friends at GL.iNet for sending us this one unit for review. We purchased all the other units. If there's a renewed one you're interested in that's currently unavailable, add it to a bookmark and check on it regularly, because it'll likely show up again at some point. They tend to go in batches. These are still available as we're broadcasting today for under $15 if that's all you need, if you want to play with it. Or look at alternate marketplaces like eBay and other reputable marketplaces that might also sell renewed products that aren't as popular as Amazon, so they might still have inventory. In any event, if you want to share an experience with a portable travel router with us, not what somebody else did, but your own personal experience with any manufacturer of travel router, please leave it in the comments below the video. Thank you to Mara, as always, for the thumbnail, tags, keywords, links, everything in the video notes, as well as all of the work she does behind the scenes to even reach out to these companies and ask us to send us the unit. There's a lot that goes into that. I think she spends more time on the back end than I spend on the front end. So it is what it is. It's all part of doing this regularly. There's a lot of work that goes into it in order to make these possible. And it's just me and Mara at this point, which is a lot better than just me, let me tell you. So much better. And yeah, I appreciate you hanging out with me today in the chat. Thank you again to Frankie B and Oystein for their continued generosity. And again, to all of our contributors today, which I can give a real quick shout out to Peter VZ and Ben Laird. Thank you for your super chat contributions. And for everybody who is blue or whether you're a moderator or a member and moderator, thank you for being a part of this community. That's the gem of this channel, is the community, not the content. It's you guys. So thank you for making this channel what it is, which is an extension of you. All of this community is an extension of ourselves. We're birds of a feather, like-minded, kind, and supportive individuals. I'd love to see the community grow. So if you're new here, you are welcome. If you are also interested in this subject matter of tech stuff, and you consider yourself to be a kind and supportive individual, we welcome all of you of any age and any gender, anywhere in the world, if you just are kind and supportive. That's the bar you have to be higher than to get in. So we hope you'll join us. Jamie McGregor renews his membership, now a member for 20 months. Right on. Thank you, Jamie. All right, guys, that'll wrap it up for me for today. I will see you all again very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.